look at this. This is amazing. This is amazing. All these people. This is great. I really hope you guys stay in this live and tune in to what Dwight has to say, what I have to say about the 75 Hard Challenge. This is one of the best things that I've chosen to do for myself in these last 2 weeks. I felt so much better about myself. All of my addictions and all my bad habits have kind of just went out the window once I started understanding how to take care of myself. I'm really, really excited. I'm kind of nervous too. Really, really excited to actually speak to somebody who has completed the 75 Hard Challenge. And you can see on his page, he's made tremendous impact on himself and on other people as well. So let's see. Without further ado, let's get my man Dwight in here. Hey,
Yo, what's
Dwight,
up?
how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. The best I've ever felt in a long, long time.
That's great. Now, how far along are you?
I had to restart because I was supposed to read 10 pages of a book a couple of days ago and I forgot. I had a lot of work to do, but I'm back at my second attempt, day 4.
All right. Okay.
But still, it's still going really, really well. You know, I was very heavily addicted to like smoking and just really being lazy and not getting myself really physically active. So regardless of me restarting, you know, I have so much motivation just to keep going because regardless of restarting the days, I'm still making so many improvements on myself.
Yeah.
You know, and that's probably the same situation with you. If anybody doesn't know, Dwight is also an author of a book. What is the name of the book again?
Price tags. It's available on Amazon. It's a memoir about losing my children and battling addiction and things like that. I've been clean for a long time now, so and working a
Awesome.
12-step program and things like that. And it's pretty much what it's about.
When did this journey begin for you? When did you decide to actually take the time to want to get into this challenge?
Well, it's funny. I had a friend brought it to me in, I guess it was maybe September of 2021. And at the time, I was pushing 300 pounds. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to do this," you know. And I said, you know, and I thought it looked fascinating. I said, "Wow, that's a great idea," you know. I was so big I could barely move. Already had one knee replacement surgery. I was on hypertension medication, cholesterol, like all of this stuff. My doctor was telling me, he says, "You keep going the way you're going, another 3 to 6 months, you'll be on insulin. You're pre-diabetic." My sugar was real high. It was bad. You know, I was in bad shape, and something clicked, and I decided, you know, because I'd been in recovery for a while. I had quit smoking like 9 years before that, so I was doing these things that were good for myself, you know. And then I read a really good book. It was a book about it's I don't want to call it a diet book because to me diets don't work, man. You got to change your life, right? You want to change, you got to change your life. You got to change your daily habits. If you want to change your situation, change what you do on a daily basis. And I started doing this, and I had to lose 80 pounds before I could even do this. But it was always in the back of my mind, like, I want to take this challenge. Like, I want to complete this, you know?
Absolutely.
And I listened to Andy Frisella and what he had to say. I got the book, I read the book, and I'm like, you know, and I got to tell you, like I said, I don't know. You know, I never really, I was never like a big gym rat or any of this stuff, you know? But then I got to a point where I said, I'm going to do this. As I told, my son had passed away. He passed away in 2005 in a car accident.
Sorry about
And
that.
well, initially I was going to do it on the day that he passed away, which was November 2nd. I was going to do it on the anniversary of his death. And then, you know, and because, you know, I don't know if we can swear, but, you know, your mind, you know, your mind plays tricks on you. I'll put it that way. I
Absolutely.
try to keep it
100%.
clean. But, you know, so I said, "Oh, Thanksgiving is coming up." And I don't know, you know, and I remember Andy Frisella saying, "Yo, there's always going to be a reason not to do this. There's always going to be something, whether it's somebody's birthday, you got an anniversary, you got, you know, whatever it is." But I put it off. I said, "Well, all right, after Thanksgiving." My son's birthday was November 28th. And so I said, "Okay, you know, I think the 24th this past year was Thanksgiving." So I said, it was a Monday. His birthday fell on a Monday, and I said, "Okay, this is it. No more excuses. No more bull. Let's do this." And there it was, you know. And so I said, all right, I'm going to do this, and I started. And you talk about forgetting to do things, like the reading and everything was cool for me. The water was really hard. But once I started, I said I don't want to lose whatever time I had.
Was
I
that the
was very
hardest part of your journey? Was the water? Like, what was the most difficult part of your challenge, you think?
the water,
Water, yeah,
definitely the
it's
water.
hard
Yeah,
too. Yeah, it's really hard.
it's a lot of water, and
It
and
really is.
I'm still drinking water though. Like I still monitor it, and I'm down to a half a gallon. Like I'm back to 64 ounces a day. And I talked, like, I have a personal trainer, Justin Yoon. Here he's with Here We Go Fitness, and I got to plug him, man, because Justin has been a big reason why I was able to complete the 75 hard. He was very encouraging. He understand where I went. You got to understand, I'm 2 weeks or a week away from being 60 years old. I'll be 60 March 1st. And I at 59, I decided I'm going to do this,
God
and
bless.
Justin was a big reason. Like he very patient guy, set me up with a really good program, and I'm still with that. I'm doing five. I went to 5 days a week workouts because I don't want to stop. This wasn't just for me. This isn't just about seeing if I could do a challenge. This is about living a better life. It's about taking control of my physical fitness. I believe in a body, mind, spirit. Very important to enhance all of these things. So
Absolutely,
and
man.
that's it. Yeah.
That's an amazing story, man. They're truly inspiring for real. For someone like me, I'm 21 years old. I still have a long
God
life to
bless.
live, and
Yeah.
I'm not super unhealthy. You know what I mean? I work a union job. I'm a local 7 tile guy, so
1109 CWA. I'm a union
hey,
man
little
too.
boy, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
That's amazing. See, union guys, that's
yeah,
it. Who
yeah.
would have thought? It's just, it's amazing to see, a lot of kids in my generation, it kind of goes both ways. So there's a lot of people that are my age that are very, very into fitness, and a lot of people are really getting into it. I don't know if it's because of social media's influence, but you see a lot of videos of people really changing their lives for the better. And I think social media has a huge impact on people actually seeing other people change their lives, and motivates other people to want to do the same. But
Hmm.
on the other hand of social media, I see a lot of young adults and even young teenagers who are just very, very caught up in their phones, a lot of anxiety, overthinking. They get so distracted in this that they forget that they're physical human beings, one of the greatest creations that God has ever made, the
Yeah.
greatest creation that God has ever made. We don't need to have technology to advance us. We are the technology in ourselves. If people just tapped into that a little bit more, if more people had the resources like this live stream, a lot of
Yeah.
people are going
Yeah.
to watch this live, and I guarantee you a lot of people are going to make a lot of changes just off of your story and just off of me constantly posting about it, as well as you too. So did it take you multiple tries to do this challenge? Was it just one and done?
No, I did it in the first shot, and
Wow.
well, and there's a reason, and I have to be honest with, and I'm very honest, right? Like, I'm retired from my union job. I worked for the Verizon Corporation. I put in my 25, or 23, actually 23 and a half, and they told me you're eligible. I said goodbye. Like, there's like a streak leaving out of there, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But I wrote the book. I'm writing another book. I do podcasts. I have a YouTube channel, which is Change Your Life with Dwight Gillespie, and we talk about these things on there. So I produce that, and so these are the things I do. But I have to be honest. If I had a 9 to 5, I wouldn't have done this in one shot. Like I'm very fortunate in that I didn't have. There were days that this was all I could concentrate on, was making sure I got my 2 a days done. Making it out to the track, because I don't know if you know Queens at all. I live in Queens, and there's a place, Victory Field. I could go out on the
Victory
real,
Field, yeah.
yeah, real
Very. I
on the
live. I
real
live
bad
around
days.
there. Juniper Park
Oh
is
yeah.
around.
Oh yeah, all right. So I use Juniper Park as well. So like on those really bad days, I didn't want to give the man any more than the 45 minutes. I got a few posts about it, right? Because there were a couple of days when it was like 8 degrees out, and sometimes it was raining. And so I go out and give it exactly 45 minutes. And so I had the track, but I had the opportunity like to wait for the weather to change or something like that. When you're working a 9 to 5, brother, if you can do this in one shot, you got my respect, because I got to tell you, if I had to work that 9 to 5, I don't know if I would have been able to do it in one shot like that. And you'll get to a certain point where you're like, I have to do this because I'm not going to lose 32 days, and It just, to me, it was just a point of doing it. And there's some haters out there. And I know there were some people out there hoping I would fail too. So, part of me, it was just that stubbornness. I'm not going to fail, man. I'm not going to turn back on this. And
No,
that's
absolutely.
it.
Good point that you just brought up about, I guess, in the sense of temptation. A lot of people that are in your circle, when they see you doing something out of the ordinary from what you normally do, they don't necessarily mean to be a negative person, but since you're doing something so different, they kind of don't believe you in an aspect. So they'll probably still treat you the same way while you're trying to change your life. Maybe they'll invite you out to have a drink, even though you're trying to stay clean 75 days. They know that you're a heavy drinker, but they don't really fully understand why you're doing what you're doing until you actually start making the changes and people start seeing, oh, wow, he's really not drinking. Oh, he's really not smoking.
I sometimes in life, and at 21, it's different. At my age, I understand that you grow apart from people at times. You know what I mean? And people see you doing this. And one thing I know about myself, especially having been in recovery for a good many years, is people get very nervous because when you start to make these huge changes in your life, it's and not that you're doing it, but people take it as like you're telling me there's something wrong with the way I live. I'm not telling you that at all. Right. Live your life. And I'm all about that. Look, I haven't I'll be honest, I haven't drank in 38 years, 39 years now. The last time I got drunk was on 4th of July, 1984, long before you were born. The last drink I had was on December, who's counting, right? December 15th of 2005 was the last time I had a drink. And so it's been a while for all that stuff. But even so, people, when they see you're not going out to the diner, like I go to these recovery meetings, I don't go to the diner afterwards. Oh, well, you think you're better? No, I don't. It's nothing like that. I'm not passing judgment on your lifestyle. Do what I'm in no position to do that. As I say, I was pushing 300 pounds at 5'6", and I look, and I'm here for support. And my life is really about, and I do that on my channel. I do that in my writing, is to try to help people live a better life mostly through example, but certainly not through ridicule. That's not my thing.
If people take it as offense, then they have to look themselves in the mirror and understand that there's definitely something that they're hiding within themselves that they're not voicing out or actually making initiative towards.
Yeah.
What's
Absolutely.
the best advice you can give to somebody who is starting? Say there's somebody in this live right now that is willing to try and start this challenge, try and change their life. What is the best advice that you could give as someone who's completed it?
Somebody contacted me about that. And the one thing I say is get things done as early in the day as possible. I set a routine early in the morning where I would have, as soon as I get up, I love to read. I read anyway. I went through 14 books in the 75 days. I read 14 books in that time. Just because I enjoy, it's my thing. It's weird. My friend Walter's here, he's laughing. I don't own a television. I don't have a TV. I haven't watched TV in a long time, It's just something that a long time ago I decided it wasn't good for me. So I would get up and the first thing I would do is I'd have my cup of coffee. I would read, I would do my reading. I'd get that done. And then I would do my first workout. Usually I would hit the gym early in the morning. Sometimes I would walk first, but I liked hitting the gym because, after the gym, I do my protein shake and stuff like that. And I like doing that after the workout. And it's not the same after the walk. So by the time 8 o'clock rolled around, I was already well into it. I drank my water as soon as I got up as well. I'd also have my first drink of water because it's good, because you wake up, your body's been dehydrated for the time you were asleep. So I drink that first 16.9 ounces and get that in, and I monitored all my water too. I log all my water. And I don't know if you want to plug it. I use a Fitbit personally. And I kept track of my water, and I kept track of, my steps and all that other stuff that I was doing. But if you could get it done as early in the day as possible, it's like if you're going to leave one workout for later on, whether it's outside or inside, this way that's all you really have left, and you drink your water throughout the day. And that's If you wait till the end of the day to do everything, it's going to be really difficult.
It's a rush. That's exactly what happened with the reading. Since I'm trying to do this on a personal level, I'm doing this, but I also am doing it on a public level, trying to get people to also do it as well. I wait for certain parts in the day to read the book. So I have a series on my page called A Chapter a Day. where I read a chapter every day on live stream of a motivational book of any kind. Right now, I'm reading a book called Destiny by T.D. Jakes. It's a very, very amazing book. I suggest it to anybody who wants to give it a read. But sometimes, you want to help other people, but you kind of have to do it for yourself. So now I'm doing the reading instead of waiting for people at 2 in the afternoon. I have to read at 7:30, 8:30 in the morning because I have to do it on my schedule. So absolutely, doing everything early in the morning is 100% the way to go. You talked about the gym.
Yeah.
And how you go and then you have your protein shake after, right? What is your go-to gym routine? Like, what is your main thing that you do when you go to the gym?
Well, again, Justin has a lot to do with that. I have an app, and it's again, not to plug too much, but I go to Here We Go
Plug
Fitness
as many times
with
as you want.
Justin, and I can't. Justin Yoon is his name, and I get an app every day. He sends me. I have it. I'm very fortunate. Look, I live a very blessed life. I really do. I have a gym in my house. My friend Jose built it for me. So I have everything that I need right here. I have all the free weights. I have the bench. I have everything that I need, essentially. And Justin sends me a workout a day to go with the equipment that I have in the gym. So I'm right here for it. I'm not a big gym guy, and I like to have the equipment that I need right away. So, and we work on different things. Like, right now we're doing concentrating on legs a lot. I do a lot of legs. And it's just like any routine, it's 5 days a week now. So there's like 2 leg days, 2 arm days, like that kind of thing. A core is every day. I do core every day. And I do it 5 days a week. I take the weekends off now because my body, that's one thing. When I finished the 75 hard, I had the 2 days I finished. It was actually on a Friday. So it was from November 28th to the last day was February 10th. And so it worked out well. Right. And then I had the weekend and I ate too much when I went off of it, and I didn't feel good. And it took me actually 4 days to get back into the gym, because my body just needed the rest. Again, I'm pushing 60.
Yeah, no, absolutely. God bless. Like I said, for you to complete the 75-day challenge and later in life, it just goes to show that anybody could do it. Anybody with the mental will could do it.
I feel like you do, though. Like, it was the same thing. I posted it on all my social media and everything, which I think is how you found it. And because I want to encourage people. This is to say, look, because I know when I hit 50, and I got to tell you something, I hit 50 and everybody gave me every excuse in the world, and I fed right into it, right? I wanted to hear it. Oh, your metabolism slowed down. You can't move the way you used to, you're set in your ways. And it was all lies that I told myself to give myself an excuse for why this was going to be this way. And as I said, like I lost 80 pounds. The first 80 pounds I lost, I did that almost exclusively with diet. I would walk, but I really couldn't move much, being that big, I would get tired, I'd get winded. So I walked a lot, but you can do that. I don't care how old you are. I don't care. Like, start with the diet and move into this. For me, if I had tried to do a 75 hard at 280 pounds, I would have failed. I never would have been able to do it. I also hit the gym 4 weeks before I started. Like, I got into the gym so I could get all that initial soreness and all that stuff out of the way.
For sure,
And,
absolutely.
and again, Justin was key in that. He really was. So
Shout out to Justin.
yeah.
Shout out to Justin.
Yeah.
So, in this journey, you posted, you documented all over your page. A lot of people also, I see when you look at your page, at least 100, 200 people have at least watched you do this. How many people have you inspired to actually do this challenge?
I don't know. I know a couple of people have contacted me. Not a lot. I know I've talked to people. It's not so much that I've inspired them to do the 75 hard, but watching me do this, I've inspired them to treat themselves better. I'll say that. And there've been quite a few dozen at least, people that have contacted me through social media and personally and told me, like, you've got me working on a diet now. You've got me working on myself and knowing that I can do it. So there's been that, and it makes me feel good. It really does. And in the circles that I travel in, we say if you've changed one person, if you've helped one person, you've done your job. And I really believe that. That if one person can say, you know what, I was pre-diabetic, or I'm diabetic, and I get into it's me. Like I am fat phobic. I had this one young lady call, "You're fat phobic," on on social media. And at first I was like, "Oh my God, you don't like being called names?" And I said, "Wait a second, she's right. I am fat phobic because I don't want to have my other knee replaced. I don't want to have to replace my hips. I don't want to have to take insulin. I don't want. I'm off of all my medication. Through my doctor. I didn't do it myself. I kept in touch with my doctor. I go. I've had the same doctor for 30 years now." And he was amazed. He says, "The transformation is unbelievable." That's the next book, by the way. It's about the transformation process. And I'm off all my hypertension, all my cholesterol medication, not thinking about any more transplants. Like I said, I have a knee. I had a full knee replacement surgery. I don't have to do the other one. Like all of these things have happened, and it has inspired people because you get into this, at least I did get into the mindset like, oh, this is where I am now. This is just part, that's another thing. This is just part of getting old. Bullshit. That's a lie. That's a lie. It doesn't have to be. I know people who are older than me in better shape. Like there's no reason that you can't do this. And to answer that though, a lot of people I think have been inspired by it.
Absolutely.
Thankfully.
That was an amazing answer. That was great. It's funny you say that because I was actually driving with my mother. We were on Austin Street, and we were trying to find parking. We were going to eat at D's, the restaurant. Are you familiar? Yeah. So we're driving, and all of a sudden I see this gentleman, and he's running the opposite way that the car is going. But he's just doing, like, I guess his like afternoon jog, whatever. Yeah. He looked fairly old, but he was pushing speed. Like he was pushing speed. And I know a lot of people that are in their 50s, even early 40s, and they can't do that. Right. It's really all about what you decide to do with your lifestyle. A lot of people will make excuses about things, but there are people that have no legs, and they go to the gym every single day, and they can do pull-ups, sit-ups, but they can even do legs still somehow. Right. You know what I mean? Because it's all about mind over matter. And that's exactly what you preach all the time.
You can always find an excuse, and you'll always find people who are willing to give you an excuse. They're preloaded, I was talking with somebody today. I thought of a good idea for a book, and it's just a book of excuses. Like, here's a book of excuses for you, and you just could look up whatever you need it for, and you'll always find it. And there'll always be people willing to feed into it for you. And I had tons of them, and there's only one excuse to do something better, though, and that's I wanted better health. Like, I have a great life. I've built a very good life for myself. As I said, I'm a blessed guy. I really am. I'm not afraid of dying. I lost my kids in an accident, right? I'm not afraid of that. I have my own opinions about the afterlife and things like that. And I'm a guy of faith. I'm not a religious guy. I'm a man of faith, though. So I'm not afraid of it. What I am afraid of, though, is living hard.
I don't know if you're familiar. I'm an actual musician. So 47 Slouch is 47 is my group name, and Slouch is my stage name. Right. My actual name is Artie, and I make music on all streaming platforms, a bunch of different sounds. And in my industry, there are a lot of people who are so caught up with the drugs or the drinking or the over excessive partying, and they don't really look to health as a way to boost their own career, and especially if you want to do this challenge as an artist or someone in the entertainment industry, you're going to run into a lot of temptation. And as you may know, there's a lot of evil in the music industry right now, in entertainment.
There's evil everywhere, brother.
Yeah, exactly. There's evil everywhere. So I've actually been able to get a couple people who were addicted to certain types of drugs who are like fellow friends musician wise, and I've gotten them to stop, and they've been logging in with me their daily health and fitness routine, which is really, really cool to see. It's kind of inspiring in a way to be able to help other people, and even if they don't say it immediately to you, you always know that if there's somebody watching you consistently, they're definitely taking that information and definitely looking at themselves in the mirror and at least asking themselves a question on if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. As long as I'm even doing that for somebody, that's like half the battle as well. What was the first sign of improvement for you? What was the first thing that you noticed about yourself, like the first sign of improvement when you started doing this challenge?
With the challenge, it was being able to lift more weight and really being impressed with the weightlifting. And I've never been the bodybuilder type or anything like that. It was looking in a mirror. I watched Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan had
I love Joe Rogan. Same.
who was David Goggins. He was on with David Goggins. Right, exactly,
I
right.
love David
And
Goggins.
Joe and Joe Rogan made a point, and it's true because I went through that thing as a fat, and I was a fat person. I was well over 100 pounds overweight, right? And that whole, well, I got, it's my last vice, and I can do this, and you're attractive at any size, and don't judge me, and I don't believe anybody should be put down for the way they look, and let's make that clear. But Joe Rogan says something, and I agree with it. He said, if I had a button right here, right, and all of these plus size people and everything, if I told them, look, you push this button, just push this button, and you could have whatever body you want, how many of them would push it? All of them. And that was it for me. And I said, he's right. Artie, I went past. Do you prefer Artie or Slouch?
Artie, Slouch, whatever you like. It's all good.
I want to, I hated walking past mirrors. I hated looking in mirrors. And to be able, ask that, to be able to look in the mirror again and be okay with it, and see that, I started like the sizes. I started going down in sizes before I did the challenge, right? I went from a triple X shirt, like when I started the diet, I was a triple X on t-shirts. And even that, my gut, because for me, it was no upper body, it was all gut. It looked like I swallowed a truck tire, And so I went from that. So I was a triple X. And when I started the challenge, I was an extra large, right? So I'd lost 2 shirt sizes, which was great. And I was a 36 in jeans, right? And when I started the challenge. And now I got 34 jeans, and I'm ready to go down as well. And that for me was a big thing. And I'm like, I gotta buy all new clothes. Like I'm wearing size large on my shirts now. And that was one of the biggest things that I started noticing was feeling more comfortable, like looking in the mirror again and feeling better. And not that looks or anything, that thin is, thin. For me, it was a point of feeling healthy. Like I started feeling healthy. I started looking healthy. Okay, look, I didn't look healthy when I was fat. I mean, if you look too thin, you look emaciated as well. That's not a good look either. But to get to your right body size, and that's where I'm getting now. And again, I'm down to 175 now, and that is huge. That's 105. I lost 105 pounds through all of this. The 75 hard I lost exactly 21 pounds. I started at 196 and ended at 175. So yeah, and that was, yeah. So yeah, it's just feeling better. Like I feel better about myself, and that's what it's all about for me is I feel healthy. I'm able to do things I didn't think I'd be able to do again. Yeah, and that's it. That was the 75 challenge did that for me.
The book, the first book that you made, was this after the 75 challenge, after you completed it, or was this during your process, or was this before?
Not even. This is before I lost any weight. In fact, in the last chapter of the book, I took a lot of because I talked about decisions that people make, and that the decisions we make are the reason that we are where we are. And I said this, like, you can make excuses for anything. And I talked about the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Like you're gonna suffer one of those things, right? If I want to eat whatever I want, I'm gonna suffer the pain of regret, which is I'm eating whatever I want. I'm not healthy. Like that's that pain, right? You're gonna pay for something, no matter, and that's why the name of the book is Price Tags, because you're gonna pay a price. And I make this point, say, oh, you're attacking fat people. I'm like, I was a fat person when I wrote that, and I talked about that. And there's the pain of discipline is, well, if I want to be healthy, this is what I have to do. For me now, it's working out 5 days a week. It's eating properly. Like I stay on my diet, and so I talk about that in the book. And the book was kind of, it helped inspire this. The book's been out for about, what is it, Walter? Maybe a year now. I think a little over a year, maybe. And yeah, so I was still battling the weight at that time when I wrote that. But I meant it in all sincerity. Like you are going to pay a price no matter what you do, And you talk about being an artist too. And I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan. It's my favorite band of all time. And Mick Jagger talked about getting off of drugs like years ago, decades ago. You think this guy'd still be rock and rolling at 80 years old? if he even, Keith Richards, like we joke about it. Keith probably hasn't shot heroin in 40 years, I bet,
It's
and
impossible. You wouldn't be able to maintain
yeah,
it.
no,
No
you
way.
can't do it. You can't do it. And if you do, like, look at the money that these guys are making. Like, the only way to really, I remember reading his biography, and it was like, oh, you could do it if you have enough money and you know what you're doing. It's like, it's a great message for the kiddies, like,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I doubt that they are, though, because you just can't maintain that lifestyle for very long. It'll kill you, man. It'll kill you, and guaranteed. Mm.
It's unbelievable to see in today's day and age, like how so many negative things, like when it comes to negative food or the over saturation of weed now. Like I mentioned before, I started smoking weed when I was 14, maybe even a little younger, my first actual time. And from then on, I was hooked. From that moment on, because I come from a family of addictive personalities. So for me, it's just, it's a part of me, and it's something that I have to live with and understand about myself. But from 14 to 21, it's kind of, it reshaped my brain. It reshaped my thinking. I thought that I had all these issues wrong with me. Like, my mind was just always clouded. Smoking weed became so much of a thing for me that I forgot. It became second to breathing almost.
Yeah.
Like, all these problems about my life, and I'm not sure why this is happening, why that's happening. It's because I'm not even considering the fact that I'm high every single day, inhaling the smoke, just constantly lethargic, constantly sitting and being sad. Like, I never considered the weed because it literally became like I had to do it anyway. It was something that made me forget. But that's when I realized that THC just gives you the false sensation of happiness. It isn't real happiness. The real happiness is when you're off of it, and then 3 weeks later you're sitting yourself and you feel it in your soul now. That's where you feel the happiness. You don't feel happiness here all the time. You feel it here in your heart. And that's when I realized, when I finally got off of it, this is how people are supposed to be living. Getting over consumed with all of these different things to help you make I don't really agree with antidepressants or like Vyvanse or Adderall and all that stuff. I feel like if you really took the time to understand your body, you wouldn't have to outsource medicine in that way. There's always some type of way that you could, or some type of alternative organically to make yourself feel better.
I absolutely agree. I tried listing all the antidepressants I've had in my life, and I came out with, there was at least 18 that I could remember, 18 different combinations that they gave me and stuff like that. And I would never tell anybody, listen, you talk to your doctor, don't, because I don't get. But I absolutely agree with that. I think that if you get to know yourself and you're willing to do, and again, you're willing to do the work, like, this is all hard work, and nothing happens by accident. If you want to get better, no matter what it is, you have to work at it, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, whatever it is. And for me, there was a big spiritual component to it. When I had quit, my thing was heroin, and I couldn't understand why life was the way it was. And I read, Artie, I read every self-help book I could get my hands on, right? I read them all. The Road Less Traveled, What Colors Your Parachute. I think that was it. All of these. And it wasn't until I read one particular book that is recovery-based that it said, dude, you got to put down the drugs. Like, before you can do anything, you have to stop clouding your mind with intoxicating substances, regardless of what it is, whether it's alcohol, marijuana, heroin, cocaine, and I'm the type of person, I used whatever made me feel good until it made me feel like shit. And I just, because that's my personality. That's what I do. I have hats, right? I had a friend bought a hat for me once. It was, I was celebrating 5 years clean at the time. This is years ago. And now I have like 157 fitted hats, because I can't have, like, and I haven't bought one in a long time because, I got to keep myself in check on things like that, because it can get out of hand quick. But you're absolutely right. When you're using these substances, you can't think. And I know people that come into my particular fellowship talking about weed, And they're like, "Oh, he's only smoking weed." And I'm like, "Dude, you don't understand how this weed is today. Like this is strong. Like this isn't like, dude, all right, when I was a kid, man, you could smoke 2, 3 joints and it was good. It was okay. But now, I remember before I stopped, I'd take 2 hits of the purple haze and you're on the moon, man. This is like, it was strong, and
Scary about this stuff now is now that everything's becoming legalized federally and also recreationally, you're seeing all these smoke shops open now
yeah,
in this neighborhood. In Middle Village
yeah,
specifically,
yeah,
every corner, there's probably more smoke shops than there are
yeah,
delis. And
yeah.
that's when I started getting a little concerned. I'm always questioning everything. I'm a very skeptical person. So once I start seeing that, okay, now they're allowing anybody to smoke weed. Why? It's kind of like they want us to smoke weed. It's kind of like they want us to just be high and constantly distracted. That was one of the things that I noticed, and I think it's very wrong. For people to be able to just walk into a store, and these stores don't care. They'll sell it to a 13-year-old. They'll sell it to a 70-year-old. Doesn't matter what age you are, no matter what restrictions there are. As long as they make their buck, they're happy. So that's another thing too, is just the constant distractions that are all over the place. But it really just comes down to the mental discipline that you have in your own. And just like you said, you have to sometimes read books that are exactly talking about the actual issues that you face with. A lot of people will go and they'll read something completely unrelated to what they're actually dealing with, and they'll never get the real answer. They won't really look at themselves, like you said, look at themselves in the mirror and actually face the actual problems that they have.
Well, yeah, you talked about antidepressants, and it's amazing that you see people, in my estimation, anyway, a lot of people are just lazy. And if you could listen, and I'm guilty. Like I'm guilty. When my son was in school, right, my ex-wife, she's an educator. She's a speech pathologist, and so she worked in the educational system. And very intelligent woman, and my son was in school, and his teachers didn't want to handle. My son he was the smallest kid in his class. He was he was, they called him, he's hyperactive. He gets up and he talks to the other kids when he's done with his schoolwork. And they're like, so we want to put him on Ritalin. And I'm like, okay, all right. And my ex is like, and we were still married at the time. She's like, what are you, crazy? I'm like, well, it's just drugs. Like I've used drugs and, she said, exactly. And look at you, like, look at your whole family. Like just nothing but a bunch of drugs. She said, no, we'll deal with this at home. Like he's a kid, he's 6 and he finishes his work before the other kids. He gets up, he walks, he talks to kids, tell him to sit down. He's 3 foot nothing. You can't handle this. Like this is first grade. We're not putting my son on Ritalin. And she's right.
Unbelievable.
Like, right. But people would rather just take a pill. And I knew a guy, and not to blow anything up, but he had this problem where he would physically abuse the people in his family. And he's sitting there, and instead of talking about it and just stop it. Oh, they said that I have, and he mentioned some disorder, some violent tendency disorder, and they're going to give me a pill and make it. No, stop hitting your kids. Just don't hit your kids. So you have to take a pill for that. Really, Bill Burr did a thing about that. I didn't know. A PSAs for not beating your wife. You don't know that that's a bad thing.
Absolutely.
You really have to. But some people, it becomes easiir. Let me just take a pill and I'll be better. And it just doesn't work. And then you still wonder why your life is so hollow.
Exactly. And a good example of what you were just talking about, you actually came into mind the other day when I knew that we were going to have this live stream. I was watching some show with my girlfriend, and there was an ad that comes in between the shows on the streaming platforms. There's always an ad that comes in between the episodes. Mm-hmm. And it was a advertisement for Hers. Or are you familiar with Hers and Hims? So they're antidepressants, right? And the lady that was in the commercial is severely overweight. Mm-hmm. Severely overweight. Right. And she's talking about, I take Hers, I take one a day, and I feel perfect again. But you're sitting here on camera and you're 150 pounds overweight, and you want to take medication rather than going to the gym and actually working out. You want to throw all of your problems into a pill rather than actually putting in the physical work. Like you said before, people are just lazy.
Well, and scared. I think, Stephen Pressfield, who's a guy I read. If you want to read something good, is you can read the War of Art, and he talks a lot about that that people are afraid of leaving their tribe behind. Because what happens, look, and I tell you, you start doing things like this with your life, and you're going to see you're gonna lose friends along the way. You're gonna outgrow people that don't, who don't believe in what you're doing or anything like that. And it can be a very fearful thing. And he talks about that. There's a great passage in that particular book. I highly recommend it, the War of Art. And but he talks about having to leave that behind, and what you don't realize is all the people you're going to pick up along the way. I mean, now we're introduced to one another, and we have these commonalities, and hopefully we'll keep a dialogue going between the two of us, so that becomes a new part of my life, and so it makes up for the people you may lose along the way. And the people you lose along the way are probably better off lost. And it doesn't make them bad people, and it doesn't make you better than them or anything like that. It just means that you begin to diverge, and you deal with that. And but for me, the idea that I can take something to feel better, and also, you talk about happiness too. And to me, happiness is almost a preposterous goal. And we live in a society that feels that we have to be happy, or I'm not happy. Well, of course you're not happy. You can't be happy. Happiness is just like sadness. It's just like anger. It's a feeling. And to be happy all the time. And I'm going to take a pill. Like, she's grossly overweight. And what is that pill going to do for you? You still can't look in the mirror and feel good about yourself. You still can't walk up a flight of stairs without being winded. You can't have sex anymore. Like, think about that. Like, and that's the be all end all. But geez,
Well,
at least be able to go a couple of rounds, right?
exactly, yeah.
And you can't do that. I know women that were so big that they couldn't conceive children, and they wanted children. But, so what do you do about that? Well, I'll take a pill and it'll make me feel happy. And I won't have that pain of not being able to conceive because I'm too obese, And it becomes the happiness is such an elusive goal. And my goal in life is contentment, to be okay with how I'm living. And I have a spiritual presence, and I believe that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. I've survived quite a bit. I survived the death of my kids. The suicide. My father committed suicide when I was a kid. I mean, I've been through. I'm sorry to hear that. And so like when you go through these things and you come out the other end, the Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, another great book. He talks about when you go through these horrible things and you can learn something from every experience, and you can become a better person. And if that happens, then you have to be grateful for everything that brought that to you. Not that you're glad that, your dad did what he did or my father did what he did, but that you say, I learned something from that, and it made me grow, and it made me more empathetic. It made me more receptive to other people who are suffering those same maladies, the same levels of depression and things like that. So I have become a better person through these circumstances. I like to think anyway.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's a quote that I have. I've been saying this for a while too, because I've done here and there motivational stuff on my page. Whenever I feel like it, I just get on my Instagram and I just, chat a bunch of stuff about motivation, and how I'm feeling in that moment. But one thing that I always say is a loss. I don't look at loss as the definition that it might be in a dictionary, losing something, being without. I look at the definition of loss as the same definition as lesson, because losses are your lessons. Every time you lose something, you learn something new about that situation, and you learn how to move according to that loss. So we can't look at loss as something as a bad thing, because we all have loss in our life, like you say, and we all have to go through negative things to find happiness. Exactly. There's a balance between happiness and sadness. You're not always going to be happy, but you're not always going to be sad. You have to figure out that emotions are everywhere at all lengths of time. They're all different. Right now, I'm happy. Right now, you seem happy, but someone probably 2 doors down is probably the saddest that they've ever been in their entire life. But they're not always going to be like that, and we're not always going to be happy either. So people have to find the balance between the two and not get themselves so overwhelmed and having to feel like they need to be this constant happy person all the time, because that's the downfall of a lot of people. They're not realizing that it's like getting your hopes up. It's like you really wish that this particular thing happens in this way, but then it ends up not being that way, and your feelings are 10 times worse because you've expected something rather than just following it through and just letting life take its course. So I understand that
Dude,
100%.
you're really only 21 years old.
Yeah. I have to
I,
thank my mom. I have
I
to
I
give
got
got
to
to
her
tell
tell
you
you
something.
something.
You're
You're an
an
impressive young man. 'Cause I
I
was
was 50.
50 when I learned that lesson.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, I got to tell you, and I'm not blowing smoke up your. So like
It's
it's
very
very impressive that you have that outlook because again, I was 50 when, and I suffered from massive depression my whole life. It's what I feel I was born into. My parents were both like that. But that's a very, very important insight that you just imparted. It
really
really
is
is
because
because I absolutely agree 100%. It's very cool that you got that so young, and that's impressive. I
I don't
don't
hear
hear
people
people
your
your
age
age
talk
talk
like
like
that.
that.
So
So
Like I
good
good
for
for
said,
you.
you.
we kind
Kudos,
of
Kudos,
have this
brother.
similar scenario when it comes to the our faith. I grew up Roman Catholic or Christian my whole entire life. I was
Yeah.
a lector, Eucharistic minister, choir member, and I can't say in this day and age now that at this point in my life, that I'm Christian anymore. But I definitely have found God again.
Yeah.
There was a long period of time where I was constantly just getting into arguments with my family, or even people like my friends that believed in God still, and I was just so angry all the time, like fighting with these people. When in reality, once I really looked back to God, a lot of things started to come back into my life. A lot of opportunity, a lot of confidence, a lot of motivation. So yes, I do have tons of faith now. Now that I'm found God again, and I feel like a lot of people need to go back to God because that's what they're trying to take out of not only this country but this world as a whole.
I think that my faith is the most important thing in my life at this point in my life. I remember when my kids died, my sister did something beautiful for me, and I don't even think she understood how important it was at the time. And we lost my son that night, the night of the accident. He passed away. Then 6 weeks later, my wife was pregnant with my daughter. We lost the baby 6 weeks later. It was just
Sorry about that.
it was unbelievably difficult and unbelievably dark. And my older sister Nancy, I love her to death. And she said, God has broad shoulders, and He can shoulder your pain and your anger. And that in that moment, it was so important to hear that, because for me, it allowed me to continue with a faith, to believe and be pissed, because I was like, why would you do, because of course I made it all personal. It was all about me. It wasn't about the kids' journey or them, because the fact is that 7,000 people a day in the United States pass away. And if we felt for every single one of them, what would happen? And, I'm pissed at God because I knew too and loved two people that died. But I hear people, and after the kids passed, I was in a chat room for people who lost kids, and there was a woman in there saying, I was a devout Christian, and then my son died, and now I know there's no God, because and and I laughed. I said, so basically, you didn't get what you wanted, and therefore you say there's no God. I said, it tells me that you had no faith to begin with. And I didn't say this because in that particular form, it would be really bad form to say that to somebody, but to say, well, if you don't do exactly what I tell you to do, then I don't believe in you. And I had a question myself on that. Like, I thought I was so important that God was doing these things to me. My father dying, the divorces that I went through, the kids dying, like all that stuff. And come to find out, it's just life, man. That
Life
life
is
is going
gonna
to happen, and that I came to understand, and again, not through religion, but through actual like real deep faith, that God isn't there to stop bad stuff from happening in my life. I'm mortal. I'm going to get sick. People I love are going to die. Bad things are going to happen. All of this. God is there to give me peace and solace in the moments when these bad things happen. That it isn't about this. And I remember reading like atheist writers like Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins and all this stuff, and the only thing that they convinced me of is that they don't believe in organized religion, and being able to separate that from having faith in God. And just because I don't understand exactly how God works doesn't mean that there isn't a God. That to me doesn't make sense. And I have found that for me, that bringing a God back into my life, like you said, it has made my life better. It has enhanced my spiritual presence in the world. And I am a believer. And I don't argue. And that's another difference for me too. When I called myself a Christian, I would argue about it, right? I want to argue. I don't have to argue anymore. Believe what you want to believe. And I say, as long as your belief system is working for you, because I find that a lot of people, especially people who have no faith at all, that their belief system's not working for them because they're angry, they're bitter, they're cynical, they lack some moral compass. There's something seems to be lacking there. And so if it's not working for you, maybe it's time to rethink your beliefs, to find some new ones that'll work for you.
Absolutely. Dwight, this was an absolute pleasure.
Cool.
This, by far, out of all the lives that I've had throughout these years of me being a public figure in the sense of being on social media and prophesizing either my music or just motivation, this by far is definitely going to impact a lot of people's lives. And hopefully a lot of people from my page come and see yours and look at actually your progress.
Thank you.
I'm very excited to see down the road whatever new accomplishments that you achieve. I'm definitely going to purchase your book, and I strongly advise everybody to go purchase the book. You can start throwing any, if you want to throw any names out there, or if you want to start promoting yourself.
I just say Justin Yoon with Here We Go Fitness. If you're looking for a personal trainer, he's the guy to go to. Name of the book is Price Tags. It's available on Amazon. We have an audio version as well, which I did the actual audio, and it was, if I do say so myself, it came out really good. That can also be purchased through Amazon. And thank you. I want to say the same thing. This has really been a positive experience. I was nervous coming on. I wasn't sure what to expect. I've never done this before, so I appreciate everything, brother. It's been a great experience, and God bless you, man. I mean that. You got your shit together, man. I like to hear it. You're a very impressive young man, and I wish you great success and all the prosperity the universe has to offer, brother.
I appreciate it. I'm going to talk to you, all right? I'll see you around. Have a good one.